In this particular video, I would like to demonstrate the following. How does a blind person install Windows on his or her computer if they cannot see? Now, mind you that I'm totally blind, so what you'll be hearing through my speakers is the sound of a talking program, and you will also be hearing me interact with the computer. And for those of you who are sighted, you will basically see what you see on the screen of this laptop. The laptop that we're working on is an HP. I don't remember the exact model, but to give you a little history behind the laptop, this particular laptop was purchased back in 2013, and being that it had Windows 8, it got downgraded to Windows 7, and this year I will be doing a reinstall of Windows due to various reasons we don't get into. So before I go any further, I would like to give a special thanks and shout out to my mom for allowing me to record, of course, and for helping me set the camera in the direction that hopefully you guys can see, as well as the end user whose identity will be withheld for providing us the laptop that we will be demoing the installation of Windows. So now, how we're going to do this? Well, the disk that I have in the laptop CD drive is a Windows Talking pre-installation environment. So what this basically means is that it is a pre-installation environment which allows a user to either set up Windows, do some repairs and I'm sure you can Google that if you Google Windows PE. And up about 2 years ago, there was a user by the name of Brian Smart who is visually impaired himself, and he, along with several other folks, developed a version of the Windows pre-installation environment that talked. So essentially what I have in the CD drive of this particular unit is the already made version of the talking Windows pre-installation environment. It works with Windows 7 32-bit, 64-bit, Windows 8, 8.1 32-bit, and 64-bit, as well as the Windows Technical Preview or Windows 10 that's coming up. So now, a couple things to keep in mind. I will be accessing the boot menu since this particular machine does not boot into the DVD drive automatically, or if I press enter upon powering up the system. And for those of you who have friends who are visually impaired, I hope this video will demonstrate and help you to know that yes, blind people can indeed work on computers and can install Windows independently with the use of this Talking Windows pre-installation environment. Possibly in a subsequent video, I will be demoing how I do this on my Macintosh. About 10 or 15 years ago, I would believe that the myth that it was hard for blind people to install Windows because they required sighted help and the like, but it's not the case, at least in this particular instance. So without further ado, let's fire up this laptop and let's get the show going. So on this particular laptop, I'm going to power up the unit, and I'm going to hold down the F9 key until I hear the CD drive stop. And the unit has kicked on. I can hear the fans. And I'm going to down arrow twice until I hear the CD drive. So I'm going to go 1, 2. I'm going to hit enter to bring up the CD drive and enter again. And it is going to take about anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes because it's reading the information from the disk and loading it into memory. And upon successful completion, let's try this again. Sometimes this thing can be a little tricky. Stupid fly. So sometimes it takes at least a couple tries, at least in my case, or because each computer is different. So sometimes F9 may not be the boot key, depending on which computer you're working on. But for this particular one, it is. Sometimes it could be the F11, F12 key. So now we're going to down arrow twice, enter. Hopefully it will come up. Oops, and I have a feeling it's not going to work. Oh, there it is. And it always has to do this on a live demonstration. But we're going to get it working, don't worry. It's a little tricky, but you never give up. That's the beauty about me working on computers for about 10 years, I would say. 10 or 11 years. One, two, enter. And we'll just cross our fingers and wait and see. So, to give you guys a little bit of my background, I started working on my own computers ever since the use of Windows XP. And when I had Windows XP, there was the whole Windows unattended installation environment. The only interaction I had to do was delete the partitions, and I pretty much agreed to the license, and it did the rest for me. Now then, I'd never tried Windows Vista, but Windows 7, I kind of did it a similar way with XP, but then realized that the whole scheme has changed as far as how to install Windows, and so I had to rehearse it just like I did prior to this video with a sighted person, of course, up until, like I said, 2 years ago when they developed this whole Windows Talking pre-installation environment. Then I was able to independently install, reinstall, delete partitions, do what I have to do. So I will thank Brian Smart for that. And if you want to learn more about the Windows pre-installation, the talking environment, I would visit Brian, BryanSmart.com, and I will make an attempt to provide links to the downloadable Talking PE programs. And what they did in this particular instance was they put in a program called Non-Visual Desktop Access, or NVDA, so that the installation environment can talk. Now here, as soon as this thing is done spinning and reading, it's going to come up talking with no speech, and that's because of the way it was developed. So to launch speech, I will walk the user step by step so that we can have a talking interface. So for the side, you probably see that it probably is getting ready to, or probably has boot to desktop by now, but I'm just going to wait until the drive stops spinning. So I think it stopped spinning. We'll hit Control Caps Lock S, and we'll hit the Home key, and we're going to hit the Enter key.
Desktop list, computer not selected, 1 of 39.
Ew, and that's loud. So there you go. We just booted up to the Windows pre-installation talking environment. I will eject the CD. Toss it here to the side. And I will plug in my external hard drive where I have the installation files set, as well as, since we're talking about external hard drive, backups of this particular computer. And as a disclaimer, I am not held responsible for any damages you incur on your computer should you wish to try to do this yourself. So it's always a good idea to always back up your precious moments, whether it's your precious pictures, your documents, your videos, your music. Always back up, or else if you decide to work on your computer and erase your entire drive, then we'll have bad news. And again, I will not be held responsible for such actions of yours. So now I feel that my drive is spinning, my external hard drive. Okay, so I think it's up, so I'll just make sure.
Not the computer 1 of 39.
Computer, so that's the non-visual desktop access talking. And again, in the description, I will provide you a link where you can download the non-visual desktop access, which on my hard drive, I have a copy already saved, so that once I'm done setting up this computer, going through the initial setup, then I will be able to load the NVDA from my hard drive onto this computer and do the touch-ups I need to do, such as Windows Update. So we're gonna hit we're gonna hit Enter,
Computer.
and it's got that.
Items new list. Hard disk drives grouping expanded. System reserved C. Not selected.
Trust me, this is not the voice I like. Mine has a better voice than this. This is the UK or British, whatever you want to call it, voice that I particularly don't care about. So I'm going to hit the letter A for my name.
Armando Passport F. 3 of 5. Items new list. Access not.
And I'm going to hit the letter I.
Items new list. Installers 10 of 90.
Keep in mind
Items.
that your version or your setup may be different than mine. This is the way I have it set up. So what you're getting is an example of what I use or how I have my hard drive set up so that I can launch and find things better. So I'm going to hit the letter W.
Windows 9. Windows 7 4 of 8.
Windows 7, which is what I want.
Items new list. So.
And I'm going to hit the letter S for setup.
Items new list. Support 2 of. Setup not exe 4 of 4.
And there we go. I hit enter.
Install Windows. Install Windows dialog. Enter your language and other preferences and click Next to continue. Copyright 2009 Microsoft Corporation. All rights reserved. Language to install. Combo box English collapse.
And I'm going to hit the letter enter because I pretty much know that what I want is already configured. But if you're from a different country, language, whatnot, then you can use your up and down arrow keys to select your desired keyboard, region, language settings, and tab right here next. But in this case, I already know what I want. I already know it's already there because I've done this plenty of times. So I'll hit the enter key.
Install Windows dialog. Copyright 2009 Microsoft Corporation. All rights reserved. Install now button.
And I already know that I want to install Windows because I won't be doing a custom or an upgrade. So I'm going to hit enter for install.
F. Installers with install Windows.
And it's going to pull up all the Windows installation formats that you can think of. And it's going to stay quiet for a while because, again, it's reading all the information from my hard drive, and it's like loading up all the files so that the setup can start. So if you're visually impaired, I just want to let you know that there's nothing to fret about. But if you're unsure, you know, there's nothing wrong with having somebody
Image selection dialog discrete.
And now we come to the image selection. Now again, your system may vary because if you have one disk, then you'll pretty much have the whole, just that one version of Windows. But But in this case, I have several images, so it's going to give me a choice. So if you were to have basically just one copy of Windows, it will not give you this screen. It will give you instead the user license agreement. So I'm going to down arrow until I hear the desired choice I want. I want to install a 64 version of Windows. Right now the images are showing up as x86, so I need to down arrow to the desired version.
Windows 7 Home Basic, Windows 7 Home Premium, Windows 7 Professional, Windows 7 Ultimate, Windows 7 Home Basic, Windows 7 Home Premium, Windows 7 Professional, x64, 2010-11, 21, 8 of 9.
So this is the one I want, so I'm going to hit enter.
User dialog. Accept the license terms checkbox not checked.
So this is a screen that will come up if you were to have just that one version of Windows, whether it's Home, Premium, Professional, Ultimate, whatever you buy, whether it's Windows 8 or Windows 7. So again, your installation may vary. So I'm going to hit the letter A for advance, or to accept the agreement, that is.
Checked.
And I'm going to hit enter.
Install type dialog. Which type of installation do you want? Upgrade to a newer version of Windows and keep your files, settings, and programs. The option to upgrade is only available when an existing version of Windows is running. We recommend backing up your files before you proceed button.
Okay, so in this particular screen, we're going to have two options. It's going to ask us either to upgrade, which we're not going to upgrade, but that's in case, for instance, if you have Windows Vista and you want to upgrade to Windows 7, which, truthfully, and I'll be straight up and honest with you, I do not recommend going this route, because if you are using a screen reader such as JAWS for Windows and or Windows or NVDA or any other, then what happens is, it's like installing Windows on top of Windows. Even though, yes, you have Windows 7 or Windows Vista, then basically all those older files get hidden, but yet it bogs down your system. So this is something that I don't recommend, but again, each to their own choice. I will not be held responsible if you choose to do this particular route. So I'm going to down arrow.
Custom Advanced install a new copy of Windows. This option does not keep your files, settings, and programs. The option to make changes to disks and partitions is available when you start your computer using the installation disk. We recommend backing up your files before you proceed button.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Custom Advanced, and for the sighted, basically, you can see what's on the screen, but for the blind people, you pretty much hear what NVDA says. This allows us to choose what we want to do, format, delete partitions, which is what we want to do. So I will hit enter.
70%. Right selection dialog. Where do you want to install Windows? List view control list. Disk 0 partition 2. Win 7. Disk 0 partition 2. Win 7. 465.7 GB. 390.4 GB. Primary 2 of 3.
Okay, so in this particular instance, I want to delete all the partitions, of course, except for my external hard drive, so that I can install a fresh copy of Windows and pretty much have this computer as good as new or even better than new. So I'm going to hit Alt-A for advanced options, which is what we want. Or I think it is.
Refresh button. Delete button.
Oh, and I'm going to delete this partition. I just tabbed, by the way.
Press. Install Windows dialog. Install Windows. Cancel button.
It's going to basically ask, am I sure I want to delete this? I'm going to
OK
tab
button.
till I hear OK.
Install Windows. Right selection dialog. Where do you want to install Windows? List view control list. Disk 0 partition 1. System reserved. Disk 0 Disk 0 unallocated space.
Okay, so I want to delete this system reserved partition as well. So I'm going to tab until I hear delete.
Refresh button. Delete button. Install Windows dialog. Install Windows. Cancel.
And I'm going to tab.
OK button. Install Windows. Right selection dialog. Where do you want to install Windows? List view control list. Disk 0 unallocated space. Disk 0 unallocated space. 465.8 GB. 465.8.
And I'm just going to hit enter, and it will start the whole formatting and installing Windows. At least I hope.
Next button. Dialog. Text. 100%. Pane.
And it's
Install Windows. Install Windows.
and it's pretty much going to install Windows. So rest assured that it is going. So I will summarize what we did so far. On this particular computer, what we did was we booted using the F9 key to access the boot menu. And it took me about 3 times because sometimes this computer can be a little touchy. And for you, again, your results may vary. It can be F11, F12, F10. So in order for you to know what key combination you're going to use, you need to refer to either your user manual, have someone sighted assistance who's computer savvy help you, or at least knows what they're doing, or you can always use our friend Google to look up your specific make and model of this particular computer. Again, given the history of this computer, I pretty much had an idea, but I totally forgot since I haven't worked on it in a while. I totally forgot what the key sequence was to get it booted, so I had to rehearse. And that's that. So I will try to entertain you guys with what's going on here. So basically what it's doing, for those of you who are visually impaired, because I know the sighted can see this, but for those of you who are visually impaired, it's copying all the files, setting it up, do all that fun stuff. Again, if you're unsure what it's doing, you can always have someone sighted around you. But since I know what it's doing, I don't worry about it. Now, what's going to happen is, as soon as it's done copying the files and preparing for setup, then it's going to reboot and it's going to start installing the OS and all its components. And then it's going to reboot again, and it's going to bring us to our Windows setup. As if when you were to buy your first computer, which the nice thing about Windows Vista, well, with XP, from XP to the latest version, the nice thing is that when you pull your computer out of the box and you don't have anybody to help you set it up, as far as putting in your username, your passwords, and the like, you can hit Windows U, as in unicorn, and tab till you hear narrator or hear text on speech, or hear text on screen, read aloud. You would hit enter, and again, I will demonstrate that for you. I'm just letting you know what's going to happen ahead of time for those of you, again, who are blind and or visually impaired. For the sighted, well, you can pretty much, don't mind me. I just like to clarify, because this video is targeted for those of you who think that a blind person can't install Windows, as I stated in the beginning. And even though I've done podcasts on Blind Geek Zone, on AppleVids, on Blind Cool Tech when it was around. And that's how most of the community, the blind community, knows me, is by doing these podcasts. And lately, when I started using an app called Meerkat, that's when I got the idea of, hey, wait a minute. I keep on telling a bunch of my sighted friends that I do this whole Windows installation, so they're wondering how I do it. So there you have it. And I hope, again, that this video is informative. Use it for what it's worth. I will give my contact information at the end of this presentation, so that if you guys have any comments, questions, complaints, you name it, you can direct them off the YouTube channel or off my Facebook, if those of you who are on Facebook. Or if you're on Facebook, you can private message me. But for others, I will give you guys my contact info. So I'm going to hit caps lock B as in boy to get it, so we can get our status.
Install Windows. Nav window property page. Install Windows. Graphic. Install Windows text. Cancel button. Progress dialog. Installing Windows. Status. Installing Windows. Text. Status text. Status graphic. 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 Progress window property page. Progress R 100%. Progress R 16%. F. Install.
So it's at 16%, which is actually not bad, being for the specs of this computer. It's got a dual-core AMD processor. Yeah, I believe it is a dual-core processor with 500 gigs of hard drive, and 4 gigs of RAM. Again, it's been about 2 years ago since I remember this computer being purchased for the end user, whose name will be withheld. But sadly, you guys only get to see what his username is going to be, but won't know who I'm referring to. Well, if you're on my Facebook friends or know who I'm referring to, then yeah. So for that user, trust me, you're going to be on, well, not you, but your computer's going to be on video, or it is on video. So, what else can I say? Meanwhile, while this computer is booting, I've been exploring careers in other places. I went to a virtual job career fair, and even though I'm not a fan of using Firefox, I was forced to use Firefox since that's what their website supported. And it wasn't bad, but being that I've used the computer for almost 20 years, I was exposed to Internet Explorer, and I've always used Internet Explorer because that's what I was taught to use in school. So my screen reader of choice is Job Access with Speech, but non-visual desktop access, or NVDA, is a great alternative for those who A, cannot afford the screen reader, or B, they just want to experiment and don't like how the other screen reader performs. And the nice thing about NVDA is that, as you will witness from my hard drive, I made a copy of all my settings, all my add-ons, all my sounds, you name it, from one computer, created a folder, transferred it onto my hard drive, and then NVDA will be installed on this computer so that I don't have to worry about licenses of JAWS and the like, so that in case I need to work on this particular computer again, I at least know that I have NVDA with my settings, my speech rate, my voices, all configured to my liking. And what's more, NVDA does not require the use of the video card. It just reads plainly, unlike other screen readers. So this computer will be a little bit faster since there won't be the obstruction of extra video drivers, aside from this particular computer's manufacturer's video drivers and all the other drivers that it needs. So speaking of drivers, what I would do, if you can, is go to your manufacturer's website, have someone read you the model number and the name of this particular computer that you're working on, or any computer that is, not this one of course, but any other computer, and download your drivers so that
19%.
when you need the drivers, you have them there ready to go. That way you're not hunting and pecking, because if you're lucky, some computers may work out of the box as far as internet access goes when you do a fresh installation of Windows, and others may not. Others, you have to find a way to track the network drivers, so it's always a good idea to be prepared for such, if that problem occurs. So we're at 19% according to NVDA. And if you want to check the status, you can do an insert B or caps lock B as a boy. Or, again, as I will always reiterate, you can have a sighted person help you do this. But being that I know the routine of how it's done, I don't need that. The only thing you saw me struggle, which I apologize for, was being able to boot from CD, since each computer is different, and specifically this one can be a little touchy at times. Okay, so for the side A, you're seeing what's on screen, so I won't interrupt anymore. But again, for those of you who are visually impaired, you're not missing much. So rest assured that once you choose your options, you will just let the Windows do the rest and let NVDA read you from its Talking pre-installation environment. And speaking of Talking pre-installation environment, from what I was told, and I could be wrong, the minimum specs to run it would be, at least memory-wise, will be a gig of RAM, since it solely depends on the memory to run off of. As you witnessed earlier, I ejected the disk that my Talking pre-installation environment was on. And I will, again, do my best to provide you the download links to the Talking pre-installation environment. If you guys wish for me to do a demonstration on how I burn such images onto a CD and or USB, I will gladly do it. Just, I guess I can give my contact info right now. You can shoot me an email at armando.maldonado0767 or you can follow me on Twitter at maldonado0767. Let's read the status, shall we?
Install Windows. Nav window property page. Install Windows. Graphic. Install Windows text. Cancel button. Progress dialog. Installing Windows. Status. Installing Windows. Text. Status text. Status graphic. 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 Progress window property page. Progress R 100%. Progress R 24%. F.
So it's at 24%. So I would say the process takes about a half hour. So I'm hoping, you guys won't get bored of this, but I also wanted to provide a first-person experience. And I'm hoping the iPad 4th Gen, the 16 gig version, has done a great job in picking me up as well as the computer, so that you guys can see what's going on. And that's the computer's loud fan. No wonder I don't like HP or let alone any computers. Just kidding, you guys didn't hear me say that. But, I don't know, I just cannot stand noisy fans, noisy computers. You name it. I guess that's why I love my iPad, right? And other tablets. Don't mind me, just flies. Ugh, it's that season in California. Let's read the status. Insert B. As in boy.
Install Windows. Nav window property page. Install Windows. Graphic. Install Windows text. Cancel button. Progress dialog. Installing Windows. Status. Installing Windows. Text. Status text. Status graphic. 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 Progress window property page. Progress R 100%. Progress R 25%. F.
So it is at 25%.
35%.
Oh, 35 now. Wow, that jumped up really quick. And I will also add that you always want to, especially if you're working on a laptop, you always want to have it plugged into a power source so that
54%.
you won't get surprised with your computer dying halfway through the installation or whatever tends to happen. So on this particular machine, I actually have the battery, since it was charging, or it is charging, due to the reason that when I did the end users backups to this from this computer, I actually wanted to drain the battery for this specific reason, so that we can actually have somewhat of a charging state as we were installing Windows on the computer. Let's read the status.
Install Windows. Nav window property page. Install Windows. Graphic. Install Windows text. Cancel button. Progress dialog. Installing Windows. Status. Installing Windows. Text. Status text. Status graphic. 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 Progress window property page. Progress R 100%. Progress R 54%. F.
So it's still at 54, which sometimes it can be accurate and sometimes it cannot be accurate. Just go with the flow, that's all I gotta say. And for this particular job, you almost have to have patience no matter what. Just because each computer has its own traits. It could be slow, it could be super fast, it could be fast. But again, it's each computer's anatomy. So while we wait for this thing to go, I guess I can demonstrate how I use my iPhone.
Finish dialog restarting in 10 seconds.
Never
Restart
mind.
now button. 2%, 12%, 22%, 32%, 42%, 52%, 62%, 72%, 82%. F. Installers Windows 7.
And yay! This computer is going to reboot. So this is phase 1 of 2 of the reboots. I will let it do its thing, and I will go ahead and demonstrate my iPhone. I have an iPhone right here. I will...
7:37 p.m. Tuesday. Unlock. Button. Unlock. Extras folder. 18 apps.
Okay, let's check. I have it on airplane mode just so I won't get any notifications.
Wi-Fi. Airplane mode. On. On. Extras folder. 18 apps. Twitter update. Message. Pandora. Training items. Messenger. Pandora. Facebook.
Let's check my Facebook. I guess I could turn it down. Let's go.
Button. Notification. Button.
Let's do this.
Notification. Mark message. Talk like your phone. Message friend. Button. Martha Hitchcock, like your Martha Hitchcock. Elder Linda.
Okay.
Facebook. App switcher. Home. Close Facebook. Extra folder. 18 apps. Spring log.
So it's going through phase 1 of 2. It's, of course, installing all the Windows components, and sometimes you'll be lucky to install some of the drivers, or it'll install all the drivers depending on each manufacturer of the computer. It will install your audio drivers. Some may install the video drivers, some may not, so that's why it's a good idea or common practice to have the drivers for the computer you're going to be working on hand should this occur, which in this instance I have the drivers from a previous job I'd done to this computer into this hard drive right here, which I will try to put it in view right there. So right now it's going through the whole setup process. Let's see if I can hit Windows U, maybe we can bring up Narrator so it can tell us what it's doing. Oop, not yet. It's not going to bring us Narrator because it's barely installing all the audio components and the other components it needs. But that's another way to know what you're doing, especially in the first phase, like towards the middle or the end of the phase. You can launch Narrator and it'll read to you what it's doing. And
Press keyboard shortcuts 1 key at a time. Sticky keys. If I press cancel, here text on screen. Read aloud. Narrator. Apply. Cancel. OK.
And I'm shift tabbing, by the way. And I was tabbing around.
Initializing narrator. Install Windows Paint. Focus on install Windows Paint. Contains install Windows Paint. 100% completed. 75% completed. Install Windows Paint. Back button. Install Windows. Cancel button. Progress Paint. Installing Windows. Status. Status image.
So you just witnessed that I hit Windows U and you have to wait for a while, but eventually Narrator came on and I was able to tab around and have it read to me the speech. So that's a good way to know whether or not your sound card is working. But if you have a fancy sound card that requires specialized features, then yes, I would recommend that you have the drivers on hand.
%80 completed.
And that's an 8.
95% completed.
This thing is really moving. And on some computers, you know that it will reboot because some of them will beep, or in the case of my Mac, it will do a startup chime. Or you'll know that it restarted when the CD drive kicks in and you hear it try to spin. Or at least it makes an audible sound that lets you know that it rebooted based off the CD drive. And I believe yes, we did reboot. Then in my case, as soon as I hear the hard drive stop spinning, I can launch Narrator, which I believe I can right now by doing a Windows U.
Make your computer easier to use. Windows will read, hear text on
And I
screen,
tab.
read aloud narrator,
And I'm going to shift tab until I
Apply.
hear
cancel, OK.
OK.
Initializing narrator.
So what happens if I hit tab?
Tab.
Oh yes.
Set up Windows window. Focus on and type a tab. Type a username,
So
for
now
example,
I can
John Edit
I can
Control.
type a username, and of course it's going to read, for example, John Smith or whatever, but I silenced Narrator by hitting the Control key. So I'm going to hit
Shift F X space Shift P A and O. Enter.
and I
Type
hit
a
enter.
password. Control.
For now, I'm not going to put a password on it, but if the user wants me to before I return it to him, I will gladly put in a password.
Enter. Product key.
Here's
Control.
where you would enter a product key if you have one, but I'm not going to worry about activating Windows just yet, just because I like to run the updates first prior to activation.
Tab. Automatically activate Windows when I'm online. Checkbox is checked. Space.
Uncheck.
Automatic. Tab. What is app? Tab. Read. Tab. Skip button.
And I hit
Enter.
the tab key to skip. And what do we have?
Tab. Install important. Tab. Use recommend.
Use
Control.
recommended settings. I'm going to hit enter.
Enter.
Okay.
Select your time zone combo box with over 20 items. UTC 08:00 Pacific. Control.
Okay, so everything is good, at least on my end, but you can tab around and use your up and down arrow keys to select your desired time zone, date, format, and all that fun stuff. So I hit enter.
Enter. Load progress 0% completed. Initial. Personalized settings window. Focus on setting up personalized settings for. Contains setting up personalized settings for. Web platform customizations. Title bar. Window minimize. Microsoft Narrator.
And the computer is pretty much getting ready to prepare my desktop. And that chime you heard means we're on the desktop. So initially, we just did a full, fresh install of Windows. And to end this demonstration, I would like to show you how I'm able, or how you're able to rather, install a portable copy of non-visual desktop access, or NVDA, from one computer onto an external source such as a USB and or hard drive, and copy all your settings, all your file, or not, yeah, all your settings, your user configurations and the like onto a computer that you're working on, which in this case would be this particular HP. So I'm going to get into the Narrator window by doing an Alt-Tab.
Tab. Microsoft Narrator
And I'm
window.
going to
Focus on quick help button.
exit Narrator,
Voice tab. Exit. Enter. Exit net tab.
and I'm going to tab
Tab. Yes button.
yes. So now I'm going to bring up my external hard drive. Oops, let's do this again. NVDA.
Desktop list. Recycle bin not selected 1 of 1.
And there's a copy of NVDA from this hard drive that's on my right on a mouse pad running on this particular computer. And now I'm going to show you how I install a copy of that from that hard drive onto this particular machine. So what I do is I use the caps lock key, which is the modifier key, also known as the insert. So I do insert N as in November.
NVDA.
We're going to down arrow till we hear
Preferences of menu key. Tools of menu key.
Tools.
New mob key.
We're going to right arrow to the sub menu because it's a sub menu.
Speak US. Item control key. Manage add-ons. Create portable copy. C. Install NVDA. I.
Install NVDA, which is what we want. We're going to hit enter.
Install NVDA. I want to install NVDA on hard drive. Please press the continue button. Use NVDA on the Windows logon screen. Check all bell.
It's asking me if I want to use NVDA on the logon screen, which I don't on this particular machine.
Not checked. Create desktop icon and shortcut key. Control Alt Check Alt D.
And it's going to ask if I want to create the shortcut key of Control Alt N, which yes I do.
Copy portable configuration to the current user account. Not check Alt key.
And I want to copy my configuration.
Check. Continue Alt key.
And I'm going to hit continue. And we're going to hear the user account, and I just hit Alt Y.
Desktop list. Recycle bin not selected 1 of 1. Secure desktop.
And I'm going to hit Alt Y because that beep beep you heard was the user account let me know, hey, this program is requesting access. So I hit Alt Y for yes.
Install NVDA. I want. Please wait on NVDA to install. Install NVDA. Install NVDA.
And those chimes means that it's installing. And it's going to take a while because I have
It says I
to,
want
and
to
there we
install
go.
NVDA. Please press OK to start the install copy. OK.
Now I just hit the OK key, which is the enter key.
Install desktop. Desktop list. Recycle bin not selected 1 of 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just installed NVDA. We did a fresh copy of a Windows installation. So now here's a question for you, and I will gladly answer it for you. Can a visually impaired person install Windows independently? And the answer is yes. Being that they are given the proper programs, tools, configurations, and the like, so that she is able to learn how it's done, what computer techs go through, what I go through sometimes, and who knows what else. The only thing that is yet to be in the works is a talking BIOS, which is basically the internal hidden software brains of the computer that tells it what to do. Input, output system devices, whatever you call it, the BIOS. So, with that said, if you want to access the BIOS, then yes, you will require somebody sighted to at least give you a general idea of the lay of the land of how the BIOS is laid out for each computer, since each manufacturer is different. So this concludes the first person installing Windows cleanly on this particular computer. If you have any questions, you can email me at armando.mandado0767@gmail.com. And you can also follow me on Twitter at MALDONADO0767.